and welcome from Shenzhen. I'm sorry I can't be there in person today, but this will have to do. I think we're all used to living in little windows on the screen, but I think many of you are actually in person, so I think that's wonderful, and I hope to be able to visit again sometime soon. So today what I'd like to talk about is how the transformation is happening within the banking industry. And the first thing I think is that to understand what is driving this transformation. It's primarily driven by everything but banking, right? So if we were to look around, we have Uber, we have Grab, we have all of these e-commerce, and all of this has certainly been increased substantially during this pandemic. But it's changing customers' behaviors. Because they're more and more used to being able to do things on their mobile devices. And so whether or not it's the e-commerce or whatever, they are now wanting to do it on their mobile devices. And it really is starting to take over their life. Here in China, you can't go anywhere without people being deeply engrossed in the little device in their hands. And that's becoming very common around the world now. And so whether it's around the family or whatever, everything is starting to be driven by that, and it's certainly accelerating as it goes forward. And so the financial services are going through a transformation. We started with normal kinds of banking services, added on internet banking and this sort of thing, which is really, in many ways, the internet or the first mobile applications for banking were really just automating transactions and processes that had been done previously by people like tellers in bank branches. They really were the same processes. You had to fill in information and move on through a set of steps. But as we've now gotten ourselves more and more comfortable with swiping and with tapping, certainly when you really try to do complex transactions on your mobile device, you can't be constantly trying to type. It's just not that easy an application. And so we need to be able to, in our financial applications, be able to move towards this mobile life. And here we have a couple of examples. One is a very interesting one from China Merchants Bank, where essentially they took the whole bank and they changed the way that it was measured. Where previously they were measured around traditional kinds of banking-related KPIs, they turned it around and went with what's called monthly active users, or MAU. And because what it did was it forced the people in the bank to really focus on how they could have the customers be able to do everything in a mobile device. And this is the result of that. So whether it's around the customer service, this certainly became very important during the pandemic when most branches were either closed or had very restricted hours and very restricted ability to have many people in the branch. So the concept of, everybody just show up whenever you want in the branch and sit around in the waiting room until you got your turn, really needed to be changed. And so they modified their mobile app to do appointments. And so if you didn't have an appointment, you couldn't come to the branch. And more importantly, it allowed you to be able to fill in all the information for whatever the transaction was. I want to withdraw this amount of money, I want to take out this kind of a loan, whatever it was. The people could actually fill out the information on the application and then get an appointment. And when they got to the branch, during the depth of the pandemic, they didn't even come inside. There was a table out front. You would show a QR code, that had been generated by the application. They would scan it, and then, if you were withdrawing money, large amounts of money, they would, bring it out to you, and away you'd go. So it really started to change how people be able to activate. They then started to build on this platform to create what's called a super app, where different kinds of partners could start putting their apps inside of the mobile app. And so whether it's to get a car to come and take me somewhere, or whether or not it's e-commerce, or buy tickets on a train or whatever, I could do that within that application. So it really let people be able to utilize the bank's application to be able to do all of their kinds of routine activities. So changing the measurements to monthly active users really put the focus on, let's try to have our users stay within our mobile application, and by adding new services, new capabilities, including the ability to communicate. So I could actually talk to the banking employees through the app. I didn't have to, give them a telephone call or have a separate, Skype connection or WhatsApp or whatever. I do it all within the application. And as a result of that, China Merchants Bank has really accelerated their number of customers, because you also didn't need to be a customer. You could tie in any of the bank accounts throughout China. And so, but when people began to use this, they started to get coupons that give them discounts. They would like that, and they would often become the customers of China Merchants. So a really different way of thinking about it. In order to be able to do that, to be able to go through this transformation, you need to change your architecture. You need to be able to rethink what you're doing, because you have to be able to change things very, very fast. So you need to move your development environments into new things, which are commonly under the umbrella that's called DevOps, which is around microservices, containers. So instead of having very large programs that take months or years to develop, you have a lot of small programs that hook themselves together, and so you can modify things very quickly to be able to offer new services. But you need to build a new infrastructure around that. You need to be able to hook into your existing mainframes or whatever you're using for your core banking. And this also gives you the opportunity to be able to use the cloud. So lots of people, when they say the cloud, they mean like public clouds like Amazon or even Huawei's public cloud. But here we're just talking about the concept of being able to do things like Amazon or a Google, build that infrastructure, even if it's within your own premise, which we call a private cloud. So utilize these concepts, start moving functionality out of your existing environment that maybe is running in virtual machines, or maybe even running within your core banking system, and be able to offer this new kind of environment. And so we have one example here from Kenya of moving from the traditional kinds of applications into this new environment and being able to offer new kinds of services. This was using Huawei's mobile money platform. So, and that brings us to the issue of digital payments. So digital payments is clearly very quickly expanding as what people want to do. They want to be able to buy things very quickly. They want to be able to send money to other people. But it really is going beyond that. It is going towards this concept of a super app that we saw before. And the key things are about having a digital payment platform that has open APIs. So not only your internal developers, but also third parties can start to build things that will connect in. So you can start to build this. And it can provide services not only to customers and to merchants, but even to the banking, the card services, all of this can all be knit together to be able to create a complete environment that allows customers to easily do all of not only their financial transactions, but most of the things that are in their life, whether it's buying e-commerce or whatever within a single platform. So that's how we think that people should begin to think about this. And this new technology then will create an advantage for the banks and financial institutions that go through this transformation, because they will now become the center of the life of their customers. So whether it's the offers of services, whether it could be anything, life insurance, car insurance, the utility companies, all of these kinds of things, whatever it is, and they can also have the opportunity to change the way that their businesses run. So you start to really reduce the need for people to go to the branch to do anything. Depending on what your regulator allows, you may be able to do completely digital onboarding. So many phones now are coming with not only cameras, but biometrics, either facial recognition or fingerprint, that sort of thing. You may be able to utilize the application to do the complete onboarding. Your customer may never need to come to a branch at all. And so by being able to create this application, this platform that for digital operations and services, you now can help move towards becoming the center of your customer's life. Plus, it will position you for being able to take advantage of new capabilities that are coming, such as very high-speed mobile, 5G, and the new Internet of Things, IoT, which is really going to be revolutionizing a lot of areas of finance, and we'll look at that in a minute. Coming back to this concept of cloud. So I think everybody, there was a lot of discussion a couple of years ago about, all banks were going to move everything into the cloud. They were not going to have data centers anymore. But I think what we're seeing really is reality. It's not just about regulators, it's about the risk-averse nature of banks, and it's also about control of your own destiny. So, what we are seeing is that most banks want the flexibility. They want the security of having a lot of the operations in their own cloud, but they also want the flexibility of being able to go out and utilize capabilities from a public cloud, that things like machine learning or deep learning kinds of algorithms, or even just for the front end activities, because when you move to mobile as your primary means of dealing with your customers, you're going to have lots and peaks and valleys. You don't want to have to build all the IT infrastructure for all of that. So being able to offload those front end things that don't have customer identifiable information or whatever will make it much easier for you and give you more flexibility. And things like Kubernetes, Docker containers, these are open source that will help to keep you from being locked into any particular cloud provider. They're open source activities Huawei is actually quite deeply involved in. We were founders of a lot of these open source efforts. So the thing about being able to do this is that you can create a federation, if you will, of all of this cloud capability, so you get the best of both worlds, the security and the flexibility going forward. And this is something that's going to be very helpful as you start to build this network of connections to all of the different kinds of services that people are looking at. So, and one of the things that starts to happen now is that as you start to force more and more, not force, but as your customers start to do more and more of their life through their mobile application, you're going to get a huge amount of information that you didn't have before. And it's going to be very important that you start to think like a Fintech or like a Google or a Facebook, where you take all of this data and you utilize it to be able to more thoroughly understand your customers, be able to do more effective marketing, capability. Also be able to do things like much more sophisticated real-time fraud detection, anti-money laundering, all of these kinds of capabilities, because you'll have all of the activities that they're doing, not just their transactions, but all of the interactions that are coming through. If you're doing messaging within the application, you're getting the voice from their calling into call centers, you're getting the ATMs, you're getting all of their merchant transactions. All of this information helps you to not only have more security, but be able to be more effectively involved in the lives of your customers, so you can figure out what customers, what kinds of activities should I be adding, and how can I more effectively cross-sell. This is a huge opportunity to be able to expand the capabilities within your bank. So lastly, I want to talk about 5G. This is starting to become rolled out, and there's just lots of opportunities. 5G is really around a couple of different concepts. One is much higher bandwidth, so you can get much faster communications. This will allow things like virtual reality or augmented reality. So, in the future you could think about going to the branch only by looking at your device and being immersed in that as though you were actually physically in the branch. But it also has much lower latencies and can handle many more different kinds of devices. And so we're going to see the IoT, whether it's intelligent video kinds of cameras, whether it's things like security for things like having drones that are following cash trucks. Although this is probably something that's going to go down in usage because people are more and more going to do things on their payment platform. But it offers new opportunities for the banks in areas such as lending, being able to track if you are doing leasing as part of one of your business services. You can use IoT and 5G to be able to track all of your assets, be able to charge in new ways, right? Not monthly, but maybe by hours of use. So lots of new kinds of opportunities that will come as we see more and more of 5G and IoT. So what we want to do ultimately is we want to build this open platform, this open distributed architecture. It could be some private cloud, some public cloud, as well as being able to still use some of your legacy things. Throwing out your core or your mainframe is a very expensive and time-consuming operation. Much better to be able to have an overall architecture that allows you to keep some functions there that need there, but be able to take advantage of new technologies around cloud computing to be able to extend the capabilities. So you have your internal APIs, your external APIs, all of this built on a microservices kind of a platform. And then you can build the different kinds of mobile apps, different kinds of service scenarios, and that are all connected together to make this. And as a result, you can not only have mobile apps, you can have the super app where you can start to really play a central role in the life of your customers and be able to bring in new revenue from new sources by offering new kinds of business services, by attracting new customers that come to you not for banking. They didn't walk into the branch to open an account. They were attracted because their friends wanted to pay them through your platform. They could download the app, that kind of thing. So lots and lots of new opportunities within the banking industry as you start this digital transformation, as you start to be able to just go from your existing monolithic into a cloud environment while still keeping the parts that are really important. Nobody wants to throw out everything they have and start over, but we need to be able to compete against the fintechs that are from a green field. They don't have any legacy. Build on your capabilities, build on your reputation, but be able to then compete in an effective manner. So thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to feedback on questions that we may be able to help you with in the future.